Noticing the time and presence of a quorum, I now call the Acton Finance Committee to order. We have one member that is online. And our first item is public comments. Since there is nobody here, except for us, I will move on the agenda to the point of view. We all ready? All right. So I made some revisions to the point of view since the last meeting. The goal of this meeting is to try to come to some type of finality with this. If there is wordsmithing on slides, I'll just take that. You can send me a direct email and I can wordsmith and then tighten up slides. I don't intend to try to do slide editing live. I want to focus on content and message. And since the last meeting we had, the thought I had with this deck was that this could be a preview for the townspeople of what could be presented at town meeting. So my experience the last couple of years is that when the warrants come out, we get a couple weeks to digest the financial information, turn it around, come up with opinions, and then advise the town, because that's our primary objective. If there's anything we can put in here on this deck that might help educate the taxpayers in the spring, even if it's not something that perfectly fits, I'd rather have it in here than not in here. And I'm not saying I have everything in here, but if you think it's something that you think is appropriate, I'm happy to add it in. Secondarily, Greg sent me a full point of view presentation and a video to review, and one of the things that he had in his deck that I don't have in mine is a specific reference to the funding of the DPW building. I personally feel like that is not part of the point of view. That should be its own subject, and if we want to talk about, capital, I think we need to talk about its capital, not a specific project, but I'm open to suggestions there. I'm going to just run through what I have, and then I'll go back, and then we can talk and go through it. So I just did a summary of what a SWOT analysis is. On this first slide, it stated the objective, and then stating at the end of the analysis, I have general guidance from the Finance Committee. Then there's a SWOT slide. This is, I did some tweaking to the municipal and school net versus gross. I was missing some of the funding on the town side, and I wasn't showing just the grants on the school, so the numbers on these slides changed a little bit. This slide did not change, the school rating slide. I created this one today. I was just looking at, this is 2025 data, towns that have borrowed and the percentage of debt, percent of debt as of the equalized value, just showing that of the towns that have borrowed money, that Acton currently is on the low part of this spectrum. But clearly, if we were to double or triple this, we would jump way up on this grid here to the top. This is the towns, it should be 2 of 2. That's an edit I have to make. This is town manager and Ellie's most recent projection. This will be in the town manager's budget presentation of existing debt and general fund debt service going out to 2037. So this is the most accurate information on the debt that we have. OPEB liability, the funding of it is up 8% from last year, 8.6% from last year. So the the funding is been successful. The fact that we've been covering I think the expense annually has driven down the liability, and I think the performance of the cash is doing better than expected, I think. Steve could advise on that. Weaknesses. This section is less numeric and then is more kind of thought. So this slide I didn't change from 2 weeks ago. Health insurance issue, we have more capital projects than we can fund. I think we need to have something in on the zoning bylaws. I just changed the verbiage to saying that the financial impact of zoning is not fully reflected in the forecast models. Like, I don't think we have scenario analysis that shows the impact of the zoning and what the true impact on a town could be. So I feel like that's a weakness. I changed the title to stormwater from water. I have this in here because I feel like it's going to come up at the town meeting, and the town's going to be asked to finance this either through taxes or an individual fee. And I think we should have some dialogue or discussion or education on it before people have their tax bill go up and understand why. Opportunities, I didn't really change this slide. I know it's a lot of verbiage. I don't know the best way to say capital planning should have a best practice. I'm open to suggestions on this. There's no numerics I can throw on here, but these are best practices for capital planning. I haven't reconciled this against what the town does, but long-term capital planning is, I think it needs to be addressed. It will be up in town meeting. AB forward, this timeline is not accurate. They're releasing a new timeline tomorrow, so I could not get that in the deck today. I'm hesitant to put any financial suggestions around AB forward, because I feel like right now we're still too early in the process to indicate if there's savings, if there's financial benefit, what magnitude is it going to look like. I just feel like we don't have anything, but we know that by the time we get to town meeting, there's going to be more information, and this is going to be a topic to be discussed. Again, I just left this in here because, like, the property at the end of, that's right out here, the red building, like that could be a nice commercial property, and a nice little business could be there. We just have a pizza place in the center of town. There's no other businesses. So when everybody aggregates in the center of the town, if it's before 10 a.m., there's no stores. So, like, wouldn't be bad to have that be a commercial property. Maybe we could get some cash to fill a one-time stopgap, fill some holes. Threats, again, this is a revised slide on the affordability of the town. Tax rate is high. After my presentation 2 weeks ago, it was mentioned to me that the reason why the numbers look like the way they do is because Acton has a high percentage of apartments. So these towns have the same, basically, layout as we do. And these towns have much lower tax bills than we do. So apples to apples, as close as we can get out of the 300-plus towns in the state, we are materially higher based on population. Population, owner occupancy, the tax bills are higher. So this is why taxpayers are strained. They're just not imagining things, they really are. So then at the end of this, I'm going to drop in the new ALG model. I have not updated it because I don't have the new ALG model. I'm going to probably take out some of the numerics on the left to make this bigger, but effectively, it ends up with a conclusion. I just threw some conclusions out here just to get us started. My thoughts would be staffing for the town. I don't feel like there should be any adds to staff or new positions without an offset. Like if we need someone that, picks up phones every day, then eliminate a position if we have to have that job. I think replacement hires would be expected for the part of staff from last year. On excluded debt, I feel like there should be no bundle projects. If they're bringing something to town meeting and it's something that needs excluded debt, it should just be by itself. And we should have a listing, exhaustive listing of the potential capital projects, and they should be prioritized before, like, we have the submission. So if we need a brand-new telephone, we know that the next thing that's going to be asked for is a new bottle of Pepsi before we commit to the telephone. And the third bullet here is expense growth should be in line with historical percentage of revenue, and that's what this prior slide is basically saying. I just put as a bullet. Then I was kind of trying to come up with a couple other bullets just to make sure I had 5. That's what I did. So opportunities to cost share, regionalize, partner with private businesses should be exhausted to lower costs and maintain town services. And then, again, referencing, trying to find best practices for capital planning, capital maintenance, and long-term financial planning should be followed. So that is I did that in like 3 minutes. That wasn't that bad.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So on the relative municipal debt slide, is there like a threshold? Is there like a preferred or ideal amount? Or is there like a red flag? Like once you cross a certain threshold, there's some risk? Because if we're looking at it as a,
Which one? Which
this
slide?
was a strength actually, I think. So
Oh, yeah.
keep going back.
Oh, yeah, like, I just thought it was
Yes, this
interesting.
one. Yeah, no, it is interesting. I'm just wondering if,
I don't
if this
know.
is good, what is not good, right? Like,
Well-
is there a threshold you don't want to cross?
Well, I guess I don't have, I didn't know I put it in here because I didn't know I didn't know the answer to that question. But I looked, the data that was out there, these are all the towns that had debt, that had posted it for 2025. And I think it's self-reporting, so I think some towns probably had debt and just didn't report it. And I just thought it was interesting to see this metric of the level of debt and, this percentage. I don't have an answer. Maybe somebody else here does, but I just thought, like, comparing us to other towns, our percentage is very low compared to what other people are tolerating for a debt level. Chrissy.
According to Google, a municipality's debt cannot exceed 5% of the most recent EQV.
Chrissy had the answer.
When you say cannot, is there like a statute or like a recommendation or,
Yes, but I don't know where.
okay.
I can't answer the question that you just posed, but something to think about for when you're doing the speech at town meeting is when we did the borrowing for the campus, the twin campus, the Boardwalk campus and the fire station at the same time, the metric that we used was the amount of debt as a percentage of any 1 year's operating budget. So we knew what percent of we had a feel for is $2 million as opposed to the $30 million for the town operating budget, or $106 million for the combined budgets between the two. How did that compare to the last time we took out a significant amount of money? Because taking out $28 million in 2003 or 2002 for the public safety facility had a different feel than taking out $76 million in 2023 or 22 for a different campus. So trying to do it by percentages was something, and that's what you're doing here for EQV. And EQV does correlate to at some level to to the total spend, but just, it might be a good idea to also look at it through the lens of total budget for a year.
Thank you, Jason. Oh, and Greg, since you didn't hear my Greg comment before you came in, I don't feel that this document is an appropriate place to put commentary on the DPW. I feel like that should be its own thing, and that if we talk about it here, we talk about it as part of the capital planning and not to call it out specifically.
I'm going to disagree with you. I think being sure to describe the overall capital planning procedure, the guidelines that we have for it, not calling it out per se in that section, which is sort of the beginning part of the presentation, I can understand that. But when we get to our recommendations, it should absolutely be part of our recommendation. We should be passing a recommendation on the DPW building, and for that matter, on the stormwater funding source. These are things that are recommendations that we absolutely should be making. Sort of keeping it generic when describing the process is fine, but when we get down to the brass tacks of the recommendations at the end of the presentation, we absolutely should weigh in on the DPW building.
So I apologize. I was on a cruise. Huh? ActonTV looks great this year. Are we presenting our point of view on fiscal '27 or on, quote, beyond that? So if it's fiscal '27, it turns out I don't know that the DPW cost is being planned to hit in '27. There will be whatever it was. What did we have last time? 1.2 million for coming up with the next iteration of design. We're likely to see something like that, but that's the prelude to the bigger money that is, at least at this planning stage, supposed to hit the following year. So I agree that we need to let people know we're trying to plan going forward, but if this fits within the scope of how much are we going to see hit the bottom line in fiscal '27, again, it's one of those hybrids. There is a number that we'll see at town meeting, but it's a fraction of the overall cost.
If the select board is planning on bringing forward a $30 million project anytime in the next 3 to 5 years, we should be discussing it as early as we possibly can. And it should be absolutely part of our point of view, because it has to be brought up. It has to be aired publicly long in advance of elections and town meetings. My opinion.
I think we agree. I'll leave it at that.
Any large expenses do need to be in here. I think we should also be talking about the likelihood of overrides going forward. I'd like there to be a recommendation about keeping staffing levels in line with insurance inflation. I have a strong question of whether the staffing level we have in our government currently is affordable or will inherently run us to operating override soon. With the expenses increases we're seeing this year, I can't believe we're going to make it another year at our current staffing levels if it's going to be the big jumps we're seeing. That's the problems the schools are looking at right now. In OPEB, there's also been a change in the town using some money from OPEB to pay retiree benefits, insurance benefits. And I'm curious whether the numbers we have in there take that into account. It shows that it's good that we're above 50%, but if we keep drawing it down, are we going to maintain? It's got to be a different trajectory. Is that in those numbers you have?
Yes, that is in the numbers. The numbers have been adjusted for recent experience in terms of investments and health insurance. Maybe not this year, but up to 2025. There is good news. The overall liability fell by over $1 million. The net liability fell by more than $2 million. And I think our end date is extended out only to 2038, as opposed to, it was 2025 the last time. So the net $300,000 contribution we've done for the last couple of years, meaning we've put 600 in and take 300 out, has not adversely impacted the OPEB situation. Now, all based on a set of assumptions, but that's the latest actuarial report.
I'm also a little surprised that we're not talking more about the fact that the school is quite likely having an override. And I know it hasn't been set in stone, but they cannot make the budget balance right now. It's a big gap. And AB Ford is not going to be in place soon enough. So unless you all know something different from the ALG, from the most recent school meeting I listened to, there's a big problem there. And Boxborough is going through an override and is not, from what they said at our tri-board meeting, in any interest in increasing the budget enough to the level necessary to support the schools. So this looks to me like a very imminent problem that we're not talking about.
I'm sorry, I did not attend or listen to the last ALG meeting. In the past, we try and declare whether or not we're going to seek an override by, it used to be the end of October, but now that town meeting's in May, we're saying Thanksgiving. Are they discussing overrides at ALG?
The last ALG meeting, which was early October, I want to say? It was a while ago.
Yeah, I was in Rhode Island.
Yeah, it was quite some time ago. I feel like it's been more than a month since we got together. Alyssa Nichols mentioned the concept of a override, and I'm not going to say were her exact words, but this was my interpretation of what I remember her saying, which was that she didn't expect that there would be an appetite for an override, and and no one else took to the microphone to say that they were seeking an override. So that's where it was at ALG. And I understand what Christie's saying about the schools, but I know that it seems like that is the likely point, but it hasn't, I don't think it's been officially raised as a factual, they have to have an override statement. I don't think it's been officially made. I could be mistaken, but.
Well, and I also think we need to be careful not to say it's a school override. It's a town override. It's a taxpayer override. It's never just one party.
When's your next ALG meeting?
Wednesday.
Wednesday. Like Wednesday next week? Okay.
Yeah. You're in Rhode Island?
No, I'm here, but I didn't write down, was it 8 o'clock?
7:30.
Even better. Thank you.
So there's two things you can do with a point of view. One is to talk about the next budget year. But in the past, sometimes we've thrown in a page or two on longer-term questions. The biggest two at the moment are the DPW building and will there or won't there be an override. I think taking a position on either one tonight is premature. But I think we need, if you want to finish this and get out there, which we should do, we should at least have a page that comments on those two items at least, that we have a DPW project of some size coming up to be proposed. And it may be at a December town meeting to get funding for a design, and then some other town meeting funding to build. But I suppose whether we want to support it or not, I wouldn't take a position right now. I think we're still supposed to have a joint meeting with the select board.
Well, I was going to suggest that what we could put in the point of view is that the Finance Committee has not come to a approval or disapproval or a decision on the expected pending DPW issue, that there is going to be a joint meeting on December 7th for Finance Committee members, ideally, that can attend, where we're going to go through scenarios that have been presented by Aero Street and other scenarios that do not require a consultant to compile together. For example, a scenario is to do nothing. A scenario is to relocate staff. A scenario is to, we talked about, we've had meetings about this, of all the scenarios. The intention of that meeting is to not argue, but just put up scenarios, do a list of pros and cons, so that we can mark it, record it. So when this eventually becomes an item that has a financial impact on the town, we can reference this. Jason?
The joint TPW scenario discussions on Sunday?
I took this from an email from Dean. It must be the 8th.
Okay.
So apologize, it's December 8th. It's definitely a Monday.
Okay.
So anyway, we could basically have a slide that says that, and we can have a slide that says that at this point, an operating override has not been ruled out, which I believe is factual.
I would agree with that. But like, I can't speak. What I would like to see when we get the new ALG model is what the gaps are between just the normal growth going out into time and what they have. And I want to understand, I want to pull out health insurance and the growth of health insurance to see how much of the variance is caused in the model by health insurance, and then understand what, have it explained what everything else is. So in theory, let's say the variance is $300,000 going out into time each year, and we know $100,000 is from health insurance. That's explainable, it's understood, it's something we can't control. What's the 200,000 difference? Like, what is driving the extra 200,000? So that, I expect that there will be, I know the school has a revised budget. I'm sure John has got revised numbers. For the ALG meeting on Wednesday, we'll have a revised forecast. I'll tighten this schedule up. I might put it to 2 pages. And then we'll see what the variance is. I know the Minuteman number in here is not correct anymore. I haven't updated this slide in like 4 or 5 weeks. So go ahead, Christy.
Can you please go back to the ALG? That's what this is. My understanding was that the school was looking at a $7 million gap. That's nowhere.
I took
Yeah.
the ALG forecast that I had now from probably a couple months ago and plugged into here. I have to update this with the new ALG forecast numbers to have the right variances.
Okay.
The variances here are not representative of what's currently been discussed.
Okay, well, that's part of why I'm surprised. I've heard very big numbers, I thought, and I'm hoping Greg can correct. Am I just imagining things, or are they talking really big numbers?
You're right. They are very big numbers, and I think they've been very clear that even if they adopt AB forward, they will still be very big numbers.
Well, that's why I'm a little shocked that it hasn't been talked about more. I'm not sure if, that's why I keep wondering if I'm misunderstanding it.
If I can, this is an interpretation. I wish there were hard evidence, I would share it with you. But my belief is they are in the process of winnowing down their options from 8 to 3 to 1. And it is at the point that they get to the 1, which I believe that the deadline for that is early December, that they will then have a number to plug in to say, okay, what's the delta? I know we're trying to create our point of view while things are moving in real time, but I think that's the trajectory that they're on. But that said, they've been very clear about it all the way through, that what is driving the process is Boxborough's not likely to do an override, and oh, by the way, even if we adopt AB forward, which we need to do just to have flexibility, we're still dealing with big numbers.
And there's the item that David Martin, if he was here, I'm sure would bring up. He mentioned it at ALG. We haven't discussed it. He was talking about, he came up the microphone at the last ALG meeting and was discussing the split between the school and the town of the new growth amount. And he said that historically, I guess years ago, ALG would discuss that split at an ALG meeting and determine what that is. I don't know, Steve probably knows better than I do about that. I don't know if we want to discuss that or we want to just, on this, I just took the historic split and I just was identifying the fact that the town's percentage dropped 3% in the last, handful of years. I don't know if we want to discuss that or leave that to Peter and John to, horse trade to see who gets what or how that works.
Well, having been on ALG when we did spend most of our time discussing the split, down to the 5th decimal place, you trade one set of problems for the other. So subsequent ALGs kind of did away with the split and it became less focused on a revenue exercise and more focused on an expenditure exercise, which has over the years led to the schools getting a larger piece of the split because they typically have bigger budget increases than the town because they have more people. And the compensation, which drives both budgets, has a bigger impact on the schools than the town. So over the years, it's crept forward for the towns and leaving for the school, leaving the towns somewhat behind. Going back to the split is not a foolproof solution to the problem. Because the question becomes, well, okay, so we got revenue from taxation. We got revenue from new growth. We got revenue that goes into enterprise funds. That was never part of the split. Schools have revenue coming in from community. Yeah, that was never part of the split. So you can, should we be looking at town's local receipts? Building permits, should that be part of it? You can chase yourselves around and around and around in circles going after the split and what is splittable and what is not. So I don't think it's the answer because we wound up for many years being hung up on increases in state aid, because that was revenue. And like, we can't set a budget until we know what the state's going to do. It was, we tied ourselves up in knots over and over again. I'm not saying that focusing on the expenditure level produces a better result, but it's a healthier discussion than just talking about revenue.
Can I make a suggestion? Since the ALG meeting is Wednesday, I was originally thinking that we would have information that we would be prepared for the ALG meeting, but I feel like if the school's going to be asking for an override, like it will be discussed on Wednesday, right? Should be, right?
Like I said, I feel kind of like I'm the only one who's noticed things are on fire in the general discussions around. So I don't know if, like, I at the point where I'm seriously wondering if I'm misunderstanding something that they've been saying. But I think there's a real problem here.
So I'm almost wondering if we take the ALG meeting from Wednesday, digest it, and then finish this at the next meeting, because we'll have factual information to discuss and respond to. And I have from the committee here guidance on any suggestion for an override, any suggestion of approving of, items, and I can take that to the meeting and then, Jason?
I agree, pushing off the point of view until after the next ALG is a good idea. That said, can we start the conversation about whether stormwater should be an extra fee or if it should be part of core services?
I think that'd be a valuable discussion, yes.
Okay, I'm going to go out on a limb and shock everyone here by saying that I believe that this is part of core services and it should not be a tack on extra tax, extra fee. You can call it a fee, it's still a tax. This is a core service. Making sure that the bridges don't wash away and that the culverts don't wash away and the streets don't flood is a core service. And if we've made the mistake of ignoring it or underfunding it or whistling past the graveyard on it for year after year after year, shame on us for not having the foresight to do something about it. Does this mean that something else is going to have to give? Is this going to make a potential override that much worse? Yes, but this is a core service, and it should fall under the Prop 2.5 rules of saying we believe there are certain things that we as a town have to take care of. Snow removal, water, having a functioning transfer station, having cops and firefighters and EMTs and an education system. Tacking this on, I think, does a disservice because it gets around the spirit of Prop 2.5. It sets the precedent for, well, anything that you can get a constituency for, you can exclude from regular taxation. And now all of a sudden, we're not looking at a 3%, arguing over a 3% raise. We're arguing over much more every year because we've made all these carve-outs. I realize we're in a hole. I realize we're behind. There might have to be something creative done to get things kickstarted. There might be a bonding that we have to do so that we can retire a larger amount of the risk in a fast manner. But no, this should not be a separate fee. This is not, oh shit, what's the thing that you always do?
If it's a need versus a want.
No, the 1.5% surcharge on our taxes for the.
CPA?
For CPC. This is not CPC. This is core service. So I'm not for having a separate fee.
I just want to add to this. I've done some digging on all these topics and burned several vacation days in the process. My understanding on this is that, I'm going to oversimplify this because that's the way I have to think about it. Let's say the town of Acton had two major high-risk stormwater areas that if they were to collapse, it would create great disruption to the town. The areas that are the highest risk that would cause the greatest disruption have been dealt with, have been funded, and are being taken care of. The rest of the town, and I think the study that they had in May, they looked at 67 stormwater areas, and that was, or it was 67% of the town. The rest of them, you're never going to fund this to the point where you can proactively maintain these. So this picture of the cars, since the main ones have been dealt with, it's almost like we should be where the broken Honda Accord is and just wait till it breaks and then fix it. Because you can't, there's not enough money to actively fund this, to proactively prevent it. You almost want to wait till they fail and then fix it. That is my general understanding, except for the ones that were in the high-risk areas, but those have already been dealt with. So I'm leaning more towards where Jason's coming from, because I don't feel that this needs to be dealt with, but I don't think that it's going to be as catastrophic as a problem for the town if they fail going forward. And they could just be dealt with one at a time.
Always get nervous about saying wait till something breaks and then fix it. I definitely find that a little bit of prevention goes a long way. I would much prefer to see some kind of sustainable path where we have a line item in the budget, very similar to the fact that we repave the roads, or some percentage of the roads every year, whether it needs it or not, and whether or not N-Grid comes and rips up the road within a year of us paving it anyway. I'm sorry, I'm still on about that. But if we've dealt with all of the severity ones now, that's great and wonderful. But if we put on let's take care of the next 5% worst, every year 5% worst case, or 2% or whatever number it is, that becomes sustainable. That's something we probably should do, so that we don't have catastrophic failures. But again, I don't believe it should be a separate fee.
So did they take care of the culvert that they came in to talk to us about?
I only saw that meeting online. I wasn't here.
So
I didn't triple check that.
I think, I'll give an example. I went to the dealer to get oil changed the other day, and we came up with a $1,300 bill because the serpentine belt pulley was going and the belt needed to be replaced. Now, I could have said, well, don't do it. Then I could be driving on a trip down to the South Shore and the thing goes and I'm in a lot worse situation. So a lot of ways, an ounce of prevention is worth more than a pound of cure, right? I mean, from what I look at, and I agree with Jason, it's a core service, right? You're paying taxes, you expect to have roads and sewer and our stormwater taken care of. And if a culvert fails, say one fails right down here at Conan Brook, that's going to shut down Newtown Road. It's going to create a lot of headache for the town, school buses, et cetera. Or if it happened on Main Street or wherever. So I think we got to be cognizant of that in a lot of ways, that we don't know where the faults are right now 100%, because they're kind of working on that from what I understand. And it would be nice, so I think that's something that we need to agree with. I mean, I agree, it should be a line item, it should be a maintenance item, and it shouldn't be as, you put a fee on it. A fee is exactly what it is, it's a tax. You're paying another tax. So I think that's what I don't want to see us like the car on the right there and totally demolished, and then go, oh, now we have to deal with it. Now it's a big issue, and we're paying overtime and everything else to take care of something that, we could have taken care of earlier and at less cost. The other part is, the town and I know the town tries to do this and other things, is bundling projects together. So if you have a couple small projects and you have some extra money, which is, no, I don't know if anybody does these days, that you could bundle them together so you're going to get a better cost, right? So you get a lower cost. We have 5 projects we could do. And yeah, maybe we could bond it and take care of these 5 at once, and it's going to save X number of dollars in doing one project and then waiting and do another one a year later and a year later and a year later. And that time, we've already floated a 5-year bond and it's already paid off by the time we get to the end of that 5-year note. And we've saved time and aggravation. So the things that can be, that's, scheduling it correctly, that type of thing. So there's things that the town needs to work on as well.
I think the stormwater issue fits into a larger context of deferred maintenance. And we see that in a variety of different places. And actually, we even heard a report at the Regional School Committee about some of the issues that they have postponed and are now trying to figure out what they have to take care of. And so a lot of the things that get pushed off are, let's say, access ramps to the school. So definitely we need to address it. In terms of funding, this may be an apples and oranges comparison, but I think it's in some respects like OPEB, because it's something that a lot of people like to kick down the road. And part of the reason they need to kick it down the road is because the budgets are tight everywhere else anyway. But to the extent we like our AAA rating and we want to maintain that, and to the extent that we want a community that is not only provides the services that we expect, but also does it in an affordable way. And again, there's a huge tension right there. Yeah, somehow or other, we got to fit stormwaters into all of that. So I'd like to see stormwater as basically a sub-point to, we need to address deferred maintenance. It could be the HVAC for the town hall. It could be, fire station roofs. It could be whatever. But stormwater is part of a bigger issue.
Hold on, Steve. Sure. So to my original point when I started going through this, I feel like this is an opportunity there when we have this document completed to use it to educate the residents of Acton about items that could potentially be at town meeting. And I think it makes sense for the Finance Committee to address this from the perspective of the way it will be presented. And I think it's going to be presented, I'm just guessing, that it would be presented as either this can be paid with taxes or fees. And what I'm hearing from our committee is that it should be paid out of the operating budget and not paid as an additional tax or an additional fee, because this is something that's expected, and that, yes, it should be part of a bigger maintenance. One of the slides I took out was the one I had on best practices for maintenance, because maintenance is the theme on all the buildings that have to be replaced and being redone. And I don't know how we do a better job maintaining what we have. Everything costs money. But I had this in originally. I took it out because I didn't know how to wrench it in. But stormwater, I think, maybe we think about it, and then at the next meeting, I think we should come to some type, when we have more people here, come to some type of consensus on how we want to see that addressed whenever it comes to town meeting. And we can all do some research on it. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, I was just going to say that we have examples of fees in the town structure, but they tend to be user-based fees. So if you're in the sewer district, you pay a fee. If you're not in the sewer district, you don't. If you need a building permit, you pay a fee. If you don't, you don't. So the idea of fees generally in town finances, it's for a specific group of people or person that wants to do something, not necessarily the general population. Stormwater, or, is a common problem that the entire town has. It's a tax, not a fee. So if we go down this road, then we'll be putting up fees for just about everything. Stormwater is here because it's the poor stepchild of the capital budget. I'll agree with that. It's easy to postpone that one because it's not obvious and they're not always broken, which is how you get the classic case of deferred maintenance. So I'll agree this is an egregious, mistake in the past of not dealing with it, but I don't see dealing with it as a fee. Because next we'll have fees for police and fire response and, this is an essential service that needs to be paid through taxes.
Do we know if, I was just looking up MGL provisions on what the town is required to do in terms of maintaining public ways and, repairing road defects. Do we know if stormwater factors into that at all? Because one of the things that I keep thinking back to, as a taxpayer, is what is required by law? What is our town required to provide to us? Everything else is just nice to have, right? Everything else is kind of up for grabs in terms of what we need to cut. The things that are required by law, we obviously can't cut. But for stormwater, I'm kind of thinking the opposite tactic, right? If it's required for maintaining the public way, then the town should be doing something about it, right? It's part of operating.
I think that'd be considered road and road repair, because if you have a culvert that goes under a road, you're moving water from one side to the other in a stream, and that culvert fails, it takes out the road, there you go. If the stormwater system becomes backed up and you don't maintain it and it floods the road, again, it becomes a road issue, and the road could become impassable. So it's part of maintenance.
Go ahead, Christie.
So I initially supported the idea of a fee because pragmatically, we're in a hole, we need to get out of it. But frankly, we're not going to get out of it soon enough. It's a slippery slope, allowing there to be fees as a community to take that on. And I can point at so many things, services that we have added since I've been on this committee that could have been money well used towards the roads. And to Alyssa's point of, let's stop talking about wants and needs, we'll talk about expectations. I have a strong expectation that the roads I drive on will not collapse underneath me. And I think just based on that this needs to be a high priority. I understand it's not sexy, like we've since added our transit system and all that. And this is something, as Steve said, it affects absolutely everyone. This should be a standard part of the municipal budget.
Should I seek out, I don't know their names off the top of my head, but the experts on this subject in the town, and have them come to our next meeting, or see if they'll come to answer some questions on this at our next meeting? Is that something that'd be helpful?
You mean the RAC, the Water Resource Advisory?
That's a good
Committee.
acronym. Thank you, Steve. Yeah.
I think they came and they talked. What they're looking for is money, and I don't know that they care how much,
Okay.
where they get it from.
All right.
They're more interested in solving a problem. And the problem is not necessarily just roads. Most of our water comes from groundwater. And so everything that affects groundwater, like runoff, septic systems, all that affects all of us.
So in regards to fees, originally your excise tax on your auto was a temporary fee. And we see where that got us, right, as a state. It becomes a permanent fee. And it's a tax, right? So that's how you gotta look at it, in that lens.
Okay. To be succinct with this, can we, because outside of Greg and his full point of view and video that was sent directly to me to review,
It's a fun video.
yes, I will make no additional comments on the video. Could people directly communicate to me changes, edits, things that are missing from here, things that you think that should be in here that are not here? I would suggest that you watch the ALG meeting recording on Wednesday so that you're fully educated about what transpires there. The documents will be saved on the shared drive. I can circulate, if there's an ALG model, I can circulate that and then get people's opinions before we get together at our next meeting so we can just finalize this. My long-term objective with this is that we have a document that we can go talk to people and use as a reference point to educate the town on things that we feel are things that they should be aware of. So we're not trying to cram everything into that 3-week window before town meeting when people are in spring sports and on spring vacation and then come back and say, well, how come I didn't know about this? So let's take our time and be thoughtful. And I would rather have a topic in here that, and have the topic not show up at town meeting, but have it be valuable to educate the town about, than exclude it because we think it's too much. Because our job is to advise the town on the financials that are presented at town meeting. And the more we do in advance, the less confusion there will be at town meeting. Christie first, ladies first.
To clarify, our job is to maintain a 5-year projection, a future
That-
view.
Yeah,
So
that's one of our
Yeah,
objectives. This is
I
one
want to
of
make sure whoever's listening
Oh, yeah.
doesn't think that it's just to talk
Well-
about town meeting. It's in this much larger context than any political body is. That's part of why we're appointed, is,
Right,
we
that's
can take
why
that
the
broader
projection that I have in here goes out to 2030. Yeah, but yes, go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, I believe I need to clarify for other members of the committee the video reference. As Scott asked, submit information reacting to the point of view. And I did that, I think, 3 ways. I did a Word document, I did a PowerPoint, and I also took a lesson from the superintendent of schools, who, in trying to explain a very complex A/B forward set of scenarios, used a tool called Notebook LM to create an explainer video. And so I sent that to Scott. Now, not because it's our point of view yet, but at some point, we will have a finalized point of view. And I think one of the things that we should also put face up on the table is that, yeah, we need to present that to the select board. Yeah, we need to present that to the ALG. I don't know if we actually present it to the school committee or not. We certainly haven't in previous years, but maybe that's done indirectly through the ALG. We have? Okay, well, this is a good year to do that again. And at some point, I think, as we learned during our listening sessions last year, we need to do it with the taxpayers. I was in a meeting on Sunday, and people were up in arms because things were going on in town that they hadn't heard about the week before. They were being asked to take surveys and what's going on. And it reminded me of the fact that we are living in a not quite a news desert, but very few people watch our Finance Committee sessions on ActonTV. We have no reporter here recording this meeting, and a whole lot of our conversation flies under the radar. So I think we need also, as we finalize our point of view, need to also finalize a plan to get it out there so that other people in town are not surprised.
I agree, Greg, that we need to have a plan for sharing our vision for this. All right. I wanted to just focus on the point of view this evening because I was concerned that adding to the agenda would have us leaving at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I wanted to just focus. Since we met last, I was asked and advised that the select board is going to have the town manager having the review of the capital plan Monday, which I believe is the 17th. And the finance committee is invited. I only need to know if there's going to be more than, I need to know if there's going to be more than 4 people attending. Everybody's invited to attend, but if there's more than 4 attending, I need to put an agenda out.
I think you should.
I'll just put an agenda out just in
Yeah,
case.
just to cover us. And also, the December 7th is a Sunday.
Yes, it is a Sunday. It's going to be Monday. It's the 8th. I just took,
Okay, thank you.
I
That's all.
took, he
I looked
gave
at
me
one.
2 dates. I took the 7th. But I will make edits to the dates.
Thank you.
Is there any other, are we good to end and then? Alex is signing off as a panelist. He's not feeling well. Bye, Alex. Thank you for hanging on.
Thank you. Sorry, I got 101 fever, so I'm fading fast.
Drink some water.
Advil in bed.
Yep, that's where I'm headed. Thanks,
right.
guys. Sorry I can't be well the
So-
whole time.
I know who's the junior member that's here. Is it
Allison.
Allison? Oh, look back to Allison. Do we want to do it? Do you want to do the late? The one that you want to do? I thought we can defer the liaison reports unless there's an urgent one. We'll have a lot for the next meeting, and certainly. Yes, it will be. All right, Allison.
I'd make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye. Finance Committee is adjourned.